I should sit way over there because Wolverine never hangs out with this wing nut. Sorry, Gumbo, Cajun. I should sit way over there.
Awesome. Well, how are you guys enjoying Houston so far?
I haven't seen Houston so far. I've only been in this building, and it's fantastic.
Well, I appreciate you guys being here. You guys are iconic, awesome. Shaped my childhood, I'm sure many as well. One thing I'm really curious about, as a child, we don't notice it, but I think a lot of us have noticed it now. The original X-Men animated series was a very mature tone. Now, when you guys auditioned for the show, when we were auditioning for the show, were you guys aware of that we're going to pull pretty much straight from the comics and make that into the cartoon, or were you guys thinking you were kind of auditioning for a children's cartoon? If you guys if you thought the cartoon was going to be like for children, or it was going to be like more serious, like it ended up being more serious?
Well, I can answer. I have one answer to that question. The only person, as the origin story goes, that knew, as far as I recall, that knew that it was the X-Men, because it was presented to us as the X Project, and I certainly didn't know anything about the X-Men at that time. Was George Booza. George, who plays Beast, he used to read the comics as a kid, so he immediately figured it out. That's what I recall. I didn't know. I don't know if you knew, Cal.
I knew nothing about them at all. I was a singer. I was like the top jingle singer in Canada, singing. Never had done any voice work prior to this. And one of the Karen Gura just called me to see how I would be interested in auditioning for Project X, as Chris said. It was a secret. Project X did it, and so she phoned me because I do impersonations of Ray Charles, Michael McDonald, like gravelly voice guys, Joe Cocker. I toured with Joe Cocker, so I knew him very well. So I had the gravel thing, so they figured, would you like to audition for Wolverine, to her? And I said, what is it? Who's he? She said, never mind, it's a cartoon. I said, oh sure, I'd love to do a cartoon. Everybody wants to do a cartoon. So I showed up, and that happened. The shit hit the fan. Oh, sorry. I showed up, and I said, who? They said, you're auditioning for Wolverine? I said, that's what they told me. And they said, okay. I said, who is he? And they're all the guys from LA and New York, the writers and producers are there, and we're in Toronto. And they proceeded to tell me that Wolverine is like 5'3", tough as nails, would die if necessary to protect his friends and the people he loves. And he's cranky. I was sold on the cranky right away. Cranky, that's perfect. And so they went on, and I said, good, who do you hear him sounding like? Still didn't know who he was or who the X-Men were. I said, Clint Eastwood. So Clint Eastwood is like, very quiet, and like, go ahead, punk. I couldn't hear him yelling the line that they gave me to read. And I said, so this line here, I could never hear Clint Eastwood. I understand you want the gravel thing, so I'll keep that in my head. But he would have to yell this line. This is a pretty violent line. So I said, who am I speaking this line to? And they said, Sabretooth. And seriously, I said, Sabretooth, and I'm Wolverine? Is this an animal cartoon? No, and I was serious. And they laughed. After 2 minutes was out, they said, no, numbnuts. They're mutants. And I said, what the hell's a mutant? I knew nothing, like completely raw. And they just laughed again and started rolling their eyes like, who sent this goof in? And then they said, excuse me. They said, are you ready to read? And I said, sure. So this is the first time I dressed as Sabretooth after he apparently, I didn't see this till months later, the episode like you guys did in October of 1992. And it was the episode where a poor Jubilee, 12 years of age, goes over and tries to help Sabretooth, who's laid up in a bed in the mansion. And so somebody went by, don't, he's gonna die. And Wolverine said, good. So anyway, this is the first line I read. All right, you egg-sucking piece of gutter trash. You always like pushing around people smaller than you. Well, I'm smaller. Try pushing me. And then, and they just went, oh, shit. Give them some more lines, and I read for the next 15 minutes, and I went home. And they phoned me the next day and said, we would love you to be our Wolverine. And I said, I would love to, whoever he is. And that's the way it started. One of the 5 best years of my life, like just hanging out with these guys, voiceover people, because I didn't know any of them, so which was perfect because Wolverine's on the outside per usual.
Yeah, I don't think any of us were voiceover people. We all came from, like Cal said, he was a well-known singer, accomplished TV actor, variety show host. I was an actor. The others all came out of the acting field, theater, movies, and television. A few people may have done some voice work, but I think that was one of the keys to casting the original series, is that they were looking for people, and I mean this in fairness to all voice actors, they had cast the show already with some known voice actors, and they decided to release them, and they needed to find some other people, and that ended up being us, and we came from other walks of the business. So all of our stories are very similar, that we came to this fresh and new. And I be honest, I've never done another cartoon, another animated series, any other voice work except the X-Men. All of my work has been in television series and movies, so the X-Men has been a gift for me, from my perspective, and I wouldn't be here at these fan events if it wasn't for my involvement with the X-Men, and now X-Men 97. So thanks to all of you. I get to meet everybody finally, after all these years.
A round of applause, guys. Thank you so much. Now, Cal kind of talked about how Wolverine, he got his Wolverine voice. There was never a Gambit before you. How did you land? Because I know the comics explain like what Gambit's kind of supposed to sound like. Marvel's always been really good about writing about that. But where did you come with that originally?
Well, I made it up as I went. But the fact was, it didn't take long. And that used to be my answer. I used to kind of push it off and say I didn't know what I was doing. But actually, I was quite insecure about doing it like I am with every role I play, except that, and I would say to this very day, I was integral in creating Gambit's character. And the more I think back about it, the more I think we shared similarities in our personalities. I'm not a joiner. I'm always think of myself as an outsider in the business, even with the group. I want to participate. I don't know. The same thing with his character. To me, in modern day terms, people keep asking me about the latest Deadpool movie. What did you think of Gambit? And I thought it was a great interpretation by another actor. Everybody's got their interpretation. My wife has a different opinion. Anytime a Gambit appears in anything with a voice, my wife's like, nope. To me, my Gambit was, he had that charisma of Elvis. He just had this magnetism, but he had to have. He had to have charm because so that's how I've always played him. And Cal's chuckling because we used to get a kick out of the fact that we didn't actually. I used to ask, in a session after I finished it, I'd look at the director and through the glass in the studio, and I'd see them talking to each other, and I thought, oh, they hate him. They hate what I'm doing. I was very insecure about it. And Norm Spencer, who used to play Cyclops, who we loved and we miss, And Cal's laughing about this now because
This is one of the funniest stories that I recall with him.
all these guys were real talented at actually doing impersonations too. Cal can do a bunch of impersonations. I couldn't. And Norm was always trying to get bit parts outside of playing Cyclops. If we needed somebody to play a bit part, he'd have his hand up because he wanted the money. And he'd say, I'll do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, in his voice. And so one day when we used to record together in the studio, all of us, for the first season, until we realized that there was mic spill and we had to start to record individually. Well, when we performed as a group, these guys would be in the room, cracking me up. And Norm looked at me one day after I delivered my Gambit stuff, and he said, and this is all it took really to crush my confidence. He looked at me and said, "Is that how you're going to do it?" Those are the good old days. Today we can do the show remotely from any studio in the world, and it's I miss the camaraderie of it. But that's how we do it.
And when he did that line, because we were all in the studio at the same time, and he did his first time we ever heard his voice of Gambit, and Norm, it was just hilarious, a very funny sense of humor and stuff. And he was being facetious, but it sounded like he was doing his Ted Knight impersonation. And he just looked over at him when he finished his first line, and he's like, waiting to see how it was. And Norm just said, "Is that the way you're going to do it?" And I just had to leave the studio. Everyone was just laughing, and he's just sitting there like someone just punched him in the head. Is that the way you're going to do him? Holy shit!
Well, I'll tell you, I fell in love with Gambit from the minute I got him. I understood him after the first episode, and to this day, in my mind, I'm always Gambit. Even when I'm doing cable, I'm just Gambit doing cable, and he uses it. It's a different voice. But they were really our halcyon days when we performed that in that first series. And we did a lot of shows. So 20 a year. I've done 77 episodes, I think, as Gambit over the years, or whatever it is. And with the current show, we're doing 10 episodes a year, not 20. So it's taking longer for people to imprint, and find the new voices. So that's what's so wonderful about having the original voices still involved. At least you get to hear them.
And I have to agree when you said you're instrumental in the popularity of Gambit and Wolverine, because I was 7 years old when X-Men animated series came out, and it was a big deal. I wanted the toys, I wanted the comics, and I felt that you guys were very, very influential in the popularity of especially Wolverine getting so big as a character. And Gambit started to get his own solo series. I remember collecting those comic books when there was a lot more focus on Gambit as well. So I want to say thank you, because you guys were instrumental in that as well.
Well, Cal's always been our star, and we've hung our hat on him. And he has. And
I wonder what that was on my head. All that shit.
But as Wolverine, that was the crown, and the rest of us are, we're supporting players. We're all mutants. But it really has been a gift for us, and it was remarkable 3 or 4 years ago to get a call after 25 or 30 years, where a couple of us are dead, unfortunately, that the call was, "We're putting the band back together." And what? And so this really has been a gift for us to connect with all of you, because all those years had passed. Not a chance we'd be here if it was only for the original series. So we're very thankful for being involved in the new one. And thank you.
When you guys got the X-Men 97 call, how did you feel to see? Because one thing I feel about X-Men 97 is that it is a natural progression of the animated series. The tone is more mature, but it's grown more mature with the audience as well. What was your thoughts when you guys saw the episode scripts for X-Men 97 season 1?
Well, my story, let Cal answer that because I've got a very different story.
Yeah. Well, what did you think about when you saw X-Men 97, the script, and the progression that it came from back in the 90s to now?
Well, initially, I didn't notice any change, except, well, when we saw it, of course, that the animation was ridiculously good. And it looked to me more like a movie as opposed to our series. It just looked like if they were shooting like a movie or an animated movie. And the scripts, they put Wolverine to the background because the first 5 years was majorly involved Wolverine and production stuff, and Hugh Jackman and the fellas and the boys got their first live action based on the popularity of our little animated series.
What about you, Chris? What did you think about when you came back?
Well, I got a call basically saying, we want you to play Cable. And I was like, why? I'm Gambit. They said, well, and I can tell you this now, they said, well, we're killing him. And I said, you're going to kill Gambit? I've thought to myself, oh, people aren't going to like that. They said, but we want you to play Cable. And I said, you're killing Gambit? Okay, yeah, I could play Cable. But to be honest, in my mind, the Gambit that I created and played all those years is dead. I did my job, and I'm loving playing Cable. So it's wonderful to be a part of it. But as I said before, sometimes I just feel like I'm Gambit playing Cable. You know, the show, there was a point, because it took so long for the first season to come out, that I personally was getting nervous. And I was in a session, and I said to the director and the former showrunner who were in the session on Zoom, I said, just be honest with me. Why are there so many delays? Like, we keep delaying it and pushing it. And I said, does it suck? And they went, oh, no, it's just taking us time. And I thought, okay. And then we went to a premiere in Hollywood, and they played for the first 3 episodes back to back for us. Big splashy premiere at the Hollywood, what was the name of the theater? The El Capitan Theater. And 3 episodes back to back. The place exploded at the end of the 3 episodes. People stood up, standing ovation. I was like, okay, we got a hit. This thing's great. And that was a turning point.
And there were many points when the people went just ape, and we did too. We were seeing it for the first time as well. And when I saw the scene with Wolverine and Gambit on top of Wolverine, lighting up his claws, because Gambit had 2 things to say to Gumbo. See, I'm coming to Gambit. Ever, because he just treated Gambit like he's in the way, out of the way. And as we say, out of the way, Gumbo, or back off, Cajun. And then but people went nuts when they saw that in the theater, with like riding it, Wolverine's running with Gambit on his back. I have a riot with that picture.
Yeah, it was a good thing there was a new guy playing Gambit, because I would never get on Cal's back.
It's one of those.
I was like, that's not my Gambit.
I have to say, you guys are kind of talking about some moments. For X-Men 97, one Wolverine moment that I loved was when, well, we found out later it's Madeline Pryor, but when Jean Grey goes into, and starts to have the baby, and he's like, is Apocalypse here?
No, and he looked, because, you know, he's here, and he's, where is he? Apocalypse here? And she goes, no, you numbskull. You didn't say that, but it's just like, no, the baby. And he just has the typical Wolverine reaction. Oh, crap. And that's all, that's his big line.
I love that scene. I also love the scene with Cable sitting at the diner with Cyclops and Jean Grey. It was one of the most emotional scenes in the series. What did you think about that scene as well?
Well, I think there's a lot more to come, and there's a comparison there between Gambit's background as a character in Cable. Cable grew up without parents as well, and that's as tough and mean as capable a soldier as he is. There's an emotional part of him that's missing that he won't address because he's behind the curtain, but it keeps popping up in these episodes, and they keep addressing it. The weirdest one for me was the line where Cable comes in and says, "Everybody out, they're coming." And the weird part for me was that I'm warning the X-Men that, in a way, that Gambit's gonna die. So I was the guy that had to warn about myself dying. It's messed up.
I didn't think about that until now. That's great.
Well, that's the way that producer worked. There are a lot of Easter eggs and all of that stuff, and history and foreshadowing, and it's brilliant. And I think you can watch that new series over and over again and keep picking stuff up if you're a real fan. I'm not even capable of picking all that up. I can't get that deep into it, but I know it's there.
That's amazing.
And just so that you know, so because when people come up and they say, "So when is season 2 coming out?" We were in the same thing. We were in San Diego. We were in Hollywood, or was it San Diego? No, it was Disney 23 or whatever it is. And so we had a meeting with Disney and with Marvel. 2 separate parties were going on. So of course we went to both of them. And
I wasn't invited.
Wasn't invited. That's enough, Gumbo. I went right to the director and said, what is this stuff? Because the fans were saying it around our table. We were signing. He said, what's this rumor? Is it true? We said, what rumor? And they told us. And I went up to the director and said, Jake, said, so what's this thing about the show not coming out until 2026? Season 2. Because, we're finished at that point. And he said, well, it's like a cake. You don't want a runny cake, do you? I said, no. I don't even eat cake. And no, we don't. Well, we gotta wait until it's ready. Well, because they've had a lot of problems. The head writer was fired, and all that stuff, and everything kind of went upside down for quite a while. And whether there's, oh my God, that's the other those people. I thought that was an actual fight.
Well, I think what Cal's saying is it's definitely going to be worth the wait. It's just that we all wish it would come quicker,
right.
But it seems to be a longer process than the original series, as I said, where we pound out 20 episodes a season for 5 years straight. Whatever, it was just a quicker process, and
I just thought you guys would be really disappointed, like I was. So come on, I could be dead by 2026. Anyway.
No.
But the fans, and they all say to a person, you guys say, we'll wait. And that's what Disney said, they'll wait. Yeah, I wouldn't wait, Bob.
Well, we're getting ready to wrap up here, but I have to ask you one last question, because I know you got those Disney NDAs, right? But if you could describe season 2 with one word, if you could describe season 2 coming up with one word, what one word would you use to describe season 2?
Stay tuned.
2 words.
Well, I can't. I don't know if I'm alive in season 2.
Okay,
and that's another story. Because so I'll tell it you guys too. Anyway, so I'm in the studio starting season 2, and I do this whenever I'm starting a thing, because it's been a while after season 1 was, and we're starting season 2, and I put my gloves on in the studio, and he said, take a picture, film this, or take a picture. And so he did, and I said, so happy to be back for season 2 of X-Men 97. I put it up after 5 minutes. The phone rang, my emails, everything went berserk from Disney. Take that down. What are you doing? I said, what are you talking about? I said, it was a cliffhanger. The end of season 1's a cliffhanger. They don't know if you lived or died. I said, they do now, pal. But I took it down immediately, but it had been out there for like 5 minutes, and it did its damage. So yeah, season 2,
It's so hard to play by all the rules these days, isn't it?
I never play by the rules.
Let's
Wolverine
just have some
loves rules because
fun.
he loves to break them.
Thanks for being our fans. We'll keep making
We love
it
you
for
guys.
you.
We
And
love
we're,
you.
we're honored to be involved in it still. This brings us out here to meet
I'd
everybody.
like to thank both of you for being here today. Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank both of you for making my childhood wonderful and for bringing it back as well. Give them a round of applause, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris
Love you to
Potter,
death.
Cal Dodd.